Mr. Obama is a prisoner of the narrative that's been spinning around in the mainstream media ever since Donald Trump became the Republican nominee and the opponent of Hillary Clinton. It's just media warfare against an obviously anti-establishment candidate who, to everyone's surprise, became the president of the United States. When I mean everyone's surprise, I mean the mainstream media surprise and I would say the establishment, the liberal neoconservative establishment that's been ruling ever since the end of the Cold War. So Obama can't very well, even if he thinks differently, he is a prisoner of it, and there's no going back now. I mean, he still has a life to live. He's relatively young. He has speaking engagements. He knows how rich the Clintons have become, how rich Tony Blair has become on the speaking circuit. He's not going to relinquish that now, even though in the waning days of his presidency. So he's just continuing this narrative, which is totally baseless. I mean, this is the king of fake news, this whole narrative about Russian interference in the U.S. elections, where we haven't been presented with a shred of evidence from any credible source or from any source that's not anonymous that, in fact, Russia did in any way interfere with the election process in the United States.
I think you were being very kind there when you mentioned that Obama was just going along with some party line. It really seems as if he was throwing some type of hissy fit in that last press conference because, 90 minutes. I mean, let's be honest. Obama's a smart guy, right? Why would he waste the last 90 minutes of his public conference to, what he considers to be a non-issue?
Well, I was watching, in fact, this conference live, and what I noticed was the following. It was actually the media, it was the reporters there who were insisting on this narrative. And in fact, I could say one thing in Obama's defense. I'm far from his lawyer in any sense of the word. People were expecting something from this news conference. Some people were expecting that he would actually announce countermeasures against Russia on this conference, because he's been intimating that for the past several days, that the United States is convinced that Russia did in fact meddle in the elections and they're going to take countermeasures without saying what those countermeasures are. And there was a fear that he would actually announce them. But again, it wasn't just a one-man show. It was an establishment show. Why am I being a little bit kind to Obama? Well, again, we must be a bit kind to the losers. And in fact, he is a loser, and his entire establishment is a loser. And they're trying to, for one, put a good face on their loss, and for another, to, let's say, dilute the win. They're trying to discredit the winner. And so Obama is, in fact, even not the most aggressive of all these people, even though he could be. So in that sense, I guess I'm being a little bit more kind to him than he deserves to be, because, in fact, he is the president, and as long as he's the president, he's the one responsible. He hasn't done a thing to force his intelligence services or these so-called anonymous sources to actually come forth and say, what is this proof of Russian meddling? And in fact, he is demonizing Russia's President Putin. He's saying, in fact, that it was he who orchestrated this whole thing. Not much goes on in Russia without his knowledge, is what he said. But again, what was it that actually went on? We still don't know. Obama hasn't said a word. He rules over 17 different intelligence agencies. Not one of them has offered concrete proof. In fact, only the CIA and supposedly the FBI, but this is just a memo, are saying that there are indications of Russian meddling once again. The rest of the intelligence agencies, including the NSA, nobody has presented any proof. So, in that sense, this is a huge psyop that's going on, that will be going on until at least January 20th and beyond in the liberal media. It's anti-Russia bashing to the maximum. It's raising the global temperature. It's rekindling the Cold War. It's just the worst.
Why has this become such a big story? I mean, is it somehow connected to the Clintons and coming out that maybe they're going to come out with we only lost because somebody else? Is it shifting the blame? Is it maybe, is it a soft moving coup? There is some talk that, next week the electors will vote, and then again the Senate has to confirm it, I think on January the 9th. Is this a slow moving coup in action, or what's your take?
Well, they're trying. For one, we have this whole campaign of convincing electors the Republican electors to not vote for Donald Trump on December 19th. And then, of course, we do have Congress. I think it's a joint session on January 6th where they have to confirm, they have to count the Electoral College votes. So at that time, if you have just one, either congressman or senator from raising an objection to an elector's vote, then that causes a debate. And in fact, they can throw out an elector's vote if both houses vote for it. So it's not over yet. And there's a big psyop going on right now of public pressure until December 19th for the electors to change their votes. And they need 37 Republican electors to change their vote so that Donald Trump doesn't have the required 270 necessary to become president. But this is not just the Clintons. This is the establishment. This is the neoconservative, neoliberal establishment that actually has been in power in Washington, well, since George Bush Sr., and especially since Bill Clinton became president. They practically kidnapped, especially foreign policy, but domestic policy as well. This is something that Trump, that's what he based his campaign on. The two core issues on which this establishment has thrived for the past 25 years, globalization and foreign interference. This would be a death blow to them for somebody to come in and to reverse this, because this is what they live off.